Welcome back, viewers. You are with me, Surbhi Unyal, and I teach philosophy at Hansraj College, University of Delhi. And we are doing a special lecture series on Introduction to Philosophy under the special segment of symbolic expressions. And we have with us Ms. Manisha, who will interpret my lectures in sign language. In this series today, we are discussing Sankhya philosophy. In a previous lecture, we discussed where does this term Sankhya comes from, and we saw that the term Sankhya comes from the Sanskrit terms Sankhya, which is interpreted by some as numbers and others interpret it as right knowledge or the perfect knowledge. We also discussed that Sankhya is a dualist in the metaphysical aspect, since it considers reality to be consisting of two principles, which is the Purush and the Prakriti. To understand Prakriti, we also tried to look at the concept of Satkaryavad, which is that the effect pre-exists in the cause. With that understanding, we will now move further and try to understand what is Prakriti and Purush. Prakriti is the ultimate cause of the universe. It is regarded as the first cause. All effects of the universe are based upon it. And being the first element of the universe, Prakriti itself is uncaused. It is eternal and all-pervading. Hence, it is called Pradhan. Fine, so from this aspect you can see that Prakriti, it is considered as the ultimate cause of the universe. But itself it is uncaused. It is again eternal and all-pervading, and therefore it is known as Pradhan. It cannot be perceived but can be inferred from its effects. Thus it is known as Anuma. In the form of conscious elements, it is called Jar, and in the form of unmanifested objects, it is called Avyakt. Now this Prakriti, it is made up of various gunas, or you can say 3 gunas to be more specific. Sankhya philosophy advocates 3 gunas of the Prakriti. These 3 gunas are Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So Prakriti is a state of equilibrium of these 3 gunas. The word gun or gunas is understood here as a quality or attribute. So you might have heard the term gun, and from that aspect it is being used here to understand the 3 gun or gunas of Prakriti, which are the Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. What is Sattva? Sattva is that element of Prakriti which is of the nature of pleasure, light and bright or illuminating. The tendency towards conscious manifestation in the senses, the mind and the intellect. The luminosity of the light and the power of reflection in the mirror or crystal are all due to the operations of the element of Sattva in the constitution of things. For example, blazing up fire, upward curls of vapors, etc. Sattva is believed to be white in color. So there are different colors that we associate with these guns or gunas, and Sattva is considered to be white, and it is also associated with light or bright or illuminating. while Rajas is the principle of activity in things. Its color is red. It is active because its mobility and stimulation. It is also the nature of pain. For example, on account of Rajas, fire spreads, wind blows, the mind becomes restless. Why? Because this Rajas has the quality of being active and also about the mobility. So that is why we are saying that when the fire spreads, it's because of the Rajas. Or if the wind is blowing, it's because of the Rajas. Or if the mind is becoming restless, then again it is because of Rajas, which is making these things happen. The third gun is Tamas. So Tamas is a principle of passivity and negativity in things. Its color is black. It is opposed to Sattva Guna because it is heavy. It is associated with laziness and drowsiness. It produces ignorance and darkness and leads to confusions. Now, what we have seen the attributes of these three gunas and what do they lead to. Now they conflict and yet cooperate with one another and are always found intermingled. They are compared to the oil, the wick and the flame of the lamp, which though opposed yet cooperate to produce the light of the lamp. In the similar manner, these three guns, they are also opposed to each other, but they cooperate with each other to produce or to lead to various aspects. So all things are composed of these three gunas, and their differences are due to the different combinations of these gunas. The nature of the things is determined by the you can say the dominance of a particular guna. So which guna is dominant in that particular thing will determine the nature of that thing. When these gunas are held in a state of equilibrium, the state is called Prakriti. Evolution of worldly objects does not take place at this state. These gunas are said to be ever changing. They cannot remain static even for a moment. So change is said to be twofold. It could be homogeneous change, which is known as Swarup Parinam, or it could be heterogeneous change, which is known as Virup Parinam. Swarup Parinam means that during the Pralay or dissolution of the world, the gunas are changing within themselves, without disturbing the others. That is, Sattva changes into Sattva, Rajas changes into Rajas, and Tamas changes into Tamas. So there is an internal change which is taking place. So such transformation of the gunas is called Swarup Parinam, or change into the homogeneous level. So this stage, the gunas can neither create nor produce anything, because it is not an heterogeneous kind of a change or heterogeneous mixing up. It's just the change which is happening in the same level. So Sattva is changing into Sattva, Rajas is changing into Rajas, and Tamas is changing into Tamas. Therefore, it cannot produce anything new. Now Virup. In the case of Pralay or dissolution of the world, the gunas are in the state of constant flux, and each tries to dominate the others. it is this flux of gunas that results in the formation of various objects. So this kind of transformation is called Virup transformation or change into the heterogeneous. So it is the starting point of world's evolution where there is a heterogeneous change in the gunas. That's when the evolution takes place. Now, after understanding what is Prakriti, what are the various gunas of Prakriti, let us now try to understand proofs for the existence of Prakriti. So, Sankhya says that the world is constituted of manifold of objects. The existence of all objects must have a cause. This is so because they themselves can't be the cause of their own creation. Further, they are limited, they are dependent, they are relative and have an end. Hence, the cause which creates them should be unlimited. It should exist beyond creation and destruction, independent and eternal. So, such a cause is Prakriti. Fine. So, what we mean to say here is that since the objects are existing in the world and everything that is existing in the world must have a cause, because since it is existing, it should have existed because of there being a certain cause, and as it cannot cause itself, so there has to be something. Now, what is that something? That something has to be unlimited. It should exist beyond this idea of creation and destruction. It should be independent and eternal. Only then it could give rise to something, or it can be a cause of something else. To see this cause, Sankhya says that this cause is the Prakriti, which is the first cause that he says. Fine. So, to understand the existence of the world, we need to have this idea of an unlimited cause which is beyond creation and destruction, and that cause is the Prakriti. The second is that world is an amalgam of all varieties of objects. However, some common qualities are found among all the objects. As a result, pleasure and pain and indifference subsists among all varieties of objects. This implies that there should be a common cause which possesses these three qualities. What are these three qualities? The qualities of pleasure, pain and indifference, and share in all the objects once they are created. And then again, what is this cause? This cause is Prakriti. The third argument is that activity is generated in the potent cause. So, all effects arise out of cause in which they were present in an unmanifested form. So, evolution means the manifestation of that which is involved. The world of objects which are effects must therefore be implicitly contained in some world cause. And what is that cause? Again, that is Prakriti. Fine. So, from that aspect, that if there is a manifestation, this manifestation itself proves that there is a cause which has now manifested to become an effect. The fourth argument is that every cause has its effect. Thus, cause and effect are distinct from each other, although the effect exists in the material cause prior to its production. Fine. So, there is a necessary relationship between cause and the effect, but it does not mean that they are the same. They are distinct from each other. even though we are saying that the effect was already existing in the cause, yet they are distinct. So by implication, therefore, the universe must have a cause. Since we are all living in this universe, it might have a cause. So this cause unmanifests the universe in its totality, and this cause is nothing but the Prakriti. Fifth argument is that Sankhya Satkaryavad accepts the cause and effect relation as an inherence form, which implies that every effect inheres in its material cause. This holds that if the effect rolls back towards its cause, then it will dissolve in its cause. This helps to maintain the homogeneity in the universe. So the balance universe from everything manifold is regarded as Prakriti. So these are the various arguments given by Sankhya to prove that why does Prakriti exist, or how can we explain the existence of Prakriti. And these arguments show us that since there is an effect, there has to be a cause, and that cause is the Prakriti, and that has been explained in various points. Now coming to the second principle, which is Purush. Purush is the principle of pure consciousness. Purush is the self, it is the subject and the knower, and it can never be an object. Object we have seen is Prakriti is basically the object, and Purush is basically the subject or the knower. So Purush is neither the body, nor the mind, manas, neither the ego, ahankar, nor the intellect, buddhi. Then what is it? In fact, it is not even the substance which has the quality of consciousness. So then what it is actually? It is the pure consciousness, in contrast to the Prakriti. Purush is considered to be the pure consciousness. It is the basis of all knowledge, and it is the supreme knower. It can never be the object of knowledge. It is also the observer. It is eternally free. It is in fact impartial spectator and peaceful. So these are some of the characteristics of Purush. It is beyond space-time continuum or change and activity. All these qualities can be associated with Purusha. It is also self-enlightened, it is self-proved, and hence it is known as causa sui. It is all-pervading, formless and eternal. Now Sankhya gives 5 proofs for the existence of Purush. The first is that all compound objects exist for the sake of the Purush. So whatever is existing for the sake of Purush. The body, the senses, the mind, the intellect, all means to realize the end of the Purush. So everything is existing for the Purush basically. Fine. So this is so because the conscious Prakriti can't make use of them. Hence all these substances are for Purush or the self. Fine. The second is that all objects are composed of the 3 gunas, and therefore logically presuppose the existence of the Purush who is the witness to these gunas and himself beyond them. Fine. So it's only observing, witnessing these gunas, but it himself is beyond those gunas. The third is that the Purush is pure consciousness, which is beyond our experience and analysis. It is the substratum of all knowledge, both positive and negative. There can be no experience without him. This is so because he is the sole authority of all experiential knowledge. The fourth is that non-intelligent Prakriti cannot experience its products because it's not intelligent. So there has to be an intelligent principle to experience the worldly products of the Prakriti. So Prakriti is enjoyed, bhogya, and there must be an enjoyer, which is the bhokta, and this bhokta is the Purush. The fifth argument is that there are persons who try to attain release from the sufferings of the world. The desire for liberation and emancipation implies the existence of a person who can try for and obtain liberation, or you can say aspiration presupposes the aspirant, and this aspirant again is the Purush. So you have seen in this lecture that how Purush and Prakriti are distinct from each other. What are the various arguments that is given by the Sankhya philosophy to prove the existence of Prakriti as well as the existence of Purush? We will continue our lecture on Sankhya philosophy in our next lecture, where we will discuss this idea of evolution and how Sankhya is trying to provide the theory of liberation, where does it rests upon. All these things will be taken up in our next lecture. So follow up the lectures and try to understand Sankhya philosophy with us. So thank you everyone, and thank you Ms. Manisha for interpreting the lectures.